The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is in theaters now. But is this a great addition to the Hunger Games universe, or just a petty cash grab? Find out with us right now. I'm Adam.
And I'm Emily.
And this is Does It Hold Up review of the newest Hunger Games movie. This is the story of Coriolanus Snow, as we would know President Snow from the original Hunger Games. This revolves around the 10th annual Hunger Games, the very first ones where they had a mentor. And who is the mentor we follow? Snow, as he takes a girl from District 12 and tries to make her more presentable to the population in the capital. Then some more stuff happens, and some more stuff, and some more stuff, and some more stuff. My first thing about this movie is that it feels like 3 movies wrapped into one, and we never get enough time with any of those stories.
It is definitely a long movie, and you can feel it because they take every aspect of that book and try to stuff it into this movie. And so it does feel like 3 very separate movies put into one. And you can feel it. You can feel that length.
Yes, you can. Very much so. It is 2 hours and 27 minutes, and yet by the time you leave the theater, you're going to feel like you have spent the last 6 hours sitting in that chair. It's not only just long, but it's also slow. And they waste some of the best moments in the movie by making them fly by as if they were absolutely nothing. What I found the most interesting about this movie was not the Snow character's story. I actually don't care about him. I can't connect to him. Disney runs into this problem a lot as well when they do these villain origin stories and they try to give you some kind of sympathy for them. No, I know who you're going to become. I do not care where you started because it will not redeem you at all. So I don't care about him. Mm-hmm. What I do care about, though, is the 10th annual Hunger Games.
Yeah, those were actually loads of fun to watch. It was very interesting to see where the games were and to compare them to what they will be and see how those changes they kind of implement in this Hunger Games gets translated into the future ones. That was actually very interesting, and I wish they would have focused more time on it.
And I actually found myself wanting to know more about each of the contestants inside of this Hunger Games as well. Everything happening with Snow and with Lucy Gray from District 12 was very uninteresting to me. It's a typical they can't be together, but they're going to find a way to be together love story that we've seen 1,000 other times. And they don't do anything new or really that special with this version either. So why not focus on the things that are very interesting?
I actually didn't mind their little romance. I thought they had some okay chemistry. The acting of it wasn't that great. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. I was really more interested in a lot of the other tributes as they came across really, really well. I was more interested in the Hunger Games part of this Hunger Games movie.
Weren't we all? So Coriolanus Snow is played by Tom Blyth, who I thought was okay. I don't see how this character turns into Donald Sutherland later in life, but I think he wasn't that bad. He was actually kind of engaging. You were a little connected to him. Just a little. The girl from District 12, Lucy Gray Baird, is played by Rachel Zegler. Okay. I don't know who told her that doing an accent was the best idea.
What does my mentor do besides bring me roses?
I do my best to take care of you.
You really want to take care of me in that arena? Start by thinking I can actually win.
It took me out of the movie every time she spoke. I was like, why is this happening? I don't want to hear this anymore. Please let me put some earphones on and just shut her out.
See, I actually had almost an opposite reaction to you. I didn't think Tom Blyth did a very good job. I thought he was more wooden instead of having those like layers that you're going to see.
I don't know how he turns into that character.
Yeah.
But for what we were presented, I think he did a pretty good job here.
But I actually didn't mind Rachel. I got used to her accent. I was very confused by it at first, but I got used to it and I kind of understood why they made that choice. Because you hear that accent and you think like hometown girl who has all these like little wise sayings to say, and that's what that character is. So I didn't mind it. You just had to get used to it.
Not at all what I thought hearing her speak. The worst part about this, though, is those two actors had zero chemistry on screen. I didn't feel their connection at all, and every time they had to interact with each other, I think they were in two different movies. And they didn't know what each character wanted from the other, and therefore there was just this clash between their acting styles that never really let us care about their relationship.
That's fair. I was a little more invested in it. I'm going to say this now. I have read the book, so I might have been more invested in it because I know and I was interested in that love story from the book. But I can totally understand where you're coming from of they were both kind of wooden towards each other.
Correct. And I don't know if it was supposed to be the class divide or not, because they didn't do a good job of playing that out at either. A lot of times I felt like Coriolanus was just from District 12. Because of, if you've read the books, you'll know his history, he's no longer rich. And so, I don't know, it just came across really weird. I didn't like it. Somebody I did like in this movie was Viola Davis, who played Dr. Volumina Gull, who is the game master for the 10th annual games. She's actually been the game master for, I believe, all of them. And now they're looking for something new, because although her games are interesting, nobody's watching. And if nobody watches, they can't control the districts.
What's the point of the Hunger Games if no one watches?
She goes absolutely balls to the wall in this movie, and it works on every single level.
Somehow it was super engaging. You never knew what she was going to do next, and that's what made it really interesting. I really enjoyed her performance, and I didn't think this character was going to be much, but she just knocked it out of the park. I was so ready every time she was on my screen.
Another character that I really liked in this movie that they didn't focus on enough was played by Josh Andres Rivera, and it was Sejanus Plinth. I just wish we got more time with him.
I really enjoy his story more than I enjoy everything else, but unfortunately it's not his story, and we just didn't get enough of him.
One of the people who was probably the standout of the movie for me was Jason Schwartzman as Lucky Flickerman, the host of the Hunger Games. He is absolutely brilliant in this, and you can see that he's either the father or the grandpa or whatever to Stanley Tucci's version of this character in the original movies.
He added quite a bit of levity to this story, and I loved his performance. I was behind him 100%.
This movie fails in giving us way too many stories instead of focusing on the games. If we would have just focused on Coriolanus' attempts to better the games and him working with the doctor and making it an event, and we could have seen him grow into what he would become, great movie. Would have totally been on board. But once you take the games out of it, which they happen within the first, 45 minutes to 50 minutes of the movie?
Yeah.
You still have an hour and a half left of this love story that just doesn't connect at all.
Now, I am going to say this for all my book lovers out there. This is a very good adaptation of the book, almost too good. And that's the kind of the issue is books don't always translate to movies well, and they tried too hard to be authentic to the book.
But like you said, sometimes books don't translate well to movies. You have to adapt them, not just pull them off the page. And I think that's where this movie failed the most. This movie was directed by Francis Lawrence, who did the last 3 Hunger Games movies, Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1, and Part 2. So the visual style is very similar to those 3 movies, which gives you a good idea that they are connected outside of name alone. And it's a pretty movie. There's some things I didn't quite like about it. The wide fisheye lens during the games, the extreme close-ups between bars, like some things didn't work, but he was going for it, and overall, a pretty good success. This movie is written better, I think, than the previous movies as well. Although the dialogue is still a little bit wonky at times and a little choppy, I think the overall flow of the way characters spoke to each other was much better than in any of the previous Hunger Games movies.
It could help that we don't follow a character like Katniss, who is very, very bland and not a great character. So that could have helped as well, because I actually really enjoy Lucy Gray as a character.
Yeah, I think more interesting characters if they would have just been able to mesh better together.
Yeah.
Final thing that I have to say about this movie is I did not expect it to be a musical. Yes, you heard that right. This movie has a ton of music in it. They constantly just go story, 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 musical break. Story, 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 musical break. That's not what I signed up for. Again, I haven't read the books, so if in the books there's a ton of music, that's my bad. I probably should have read them first. But it didn't work in the movie. There was no reason we needed to stop to hear music every 15 minutes. You have a 2.5-hour movie. Cut a lot of those songs out that don't further anything, keep the ones in that do, and shorten it. This movie was 40 minutes too long, and the music was a big reason why.
The music is heavily from the book. However, I do agree there was too much of it. You could have lessened the amount of it, kept the really important ones like the hanging tree. We didn't need to focus on it every 2 seconds.
Correct. One thing that you brought up after we saw this movie is it actually does a pretty good job of connecting things to the Hunger Games movies that came before. So there's little things like the Mockingjay idea, the song, the District 12 connection. You thought it did a really good job of connecting these things. I didn't remember much of it, so I didn't think so.
Like I said, I've read the books, I've watched the movies, I've watched them, I will say, more than you. I found that actually extremely interesting to see all these little hidden connections of why things bother Snow more in the Hunger Games. And it's kind of like having the hanging tree song in this one that's the song that Katniss uses against him, and turns out it's his lover's song that she created. So it's those little connections that Hunger Games fans will really enjoy, and that I personally enjoyed.
All right, final thing. The movie does a really good job of bringing you into the story, but then immediately shutting you out. And the ending of this movie is so anticlimactic that I didn't know it was the end.
Yeah.
The credits started rolling, and I went...
There's got to be a mid-credits or a post-credits because nothing happened.
Yeah, that's it. So overall, the story isn't that interesting, but it does have some really high moments. Unfortunately for me, they're overshadowed by the extremely low moments. I wish they would have told a different story about Cornelius Snow and how he built and got that power that we see him have in the Hunger Games. So for that reason, and I just don't think it was that well made of a movie, I'm going to give this one a C+.
Because I'm a fan of the Hunger Games series, books, and movies, I enjoyed myself watching this. I'm actually going to give it a B. I can't give it any higher because there were so many issues, but it's still an interesting story if you are a fan of the series.
So yeah, if you're a Hunger Games fan, this is one that you might want to check out in theaters. Let us know in the comments below what you think of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Possibly some of the longest title ever for a movie. They could have shortened that. Or if you're going to see it this weekend. One quick additional note here, we did not do a full review for Taika Waititi's new movie, Next Goal Wins, because it wasn't good. We sat down, we tried to do a review, and all we found ourselves doing was bashing the movie. Top to bottom, nothing about it worked. And so very quickly, we're going to give you our letter grades for Next Goal Wins. I'm going to give it my second ever F on this page, on this channel, because it is a trash movie. From the writing, the directing, the acting, everything about this movie was bad.
I normally like movies better than you, but I'm actually also going to give it an F. This is my first ever because it was so bad.
So bad. So if you're going to go to the theater this weekend, definitely check out The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, way before you ever check out Next Goal Wins, although I advise you to never check out that movie. All right, we'll be back later with another review, and you can always watch on every Tuesday. We do have a box office roundup show. So until then, be good to yourself, be kind to others, and keep watching movies.
Bye.